It's officially welcome back from the holidays to all our viewers in Nigeria and those watching us online. And regardless of wherever in the world you're watching, want to say a warm welcome to us this morning on Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us. For the next 3 hours, we'll be taking you around some of the biggest political and economic stories in the country. I am Olive Emodi.
And it feels good to be back here. I'm Jeff Hanson, reporting live here on News Central's Breakfast Central. Unfortunately, as we would like to have our third co-host, he would be away for a while, and I'm sure you know why. We broke the news to you yesterday that it's about celebration, and with good news comes good cheer. So he needs to take some time off, spend some time with his family, and ensure that they enjoy the bundle of joy that it comes with being a father, and of course, and not forgetting to a mother, talking about his wife. And we're talking about Benga Abuja. But that doesn't stop us, because we're here to ensure that we bring the latest stories to you on time and real time.
And if I could move a motion for parents, for fathers in particular, if I were a member of the House, I think one of the motions we should move for is to make mandatorily that fathers get to spend at least 1 month on paternity leave with their children. I'm going
to clap to that.
Yes,
I'm going to clap to that. I agree with you. I agree. I think they should spend, yes. I agree.
Because the father needs time to bond with the child as well. And also because it is a joint responsibility, raising the child. 10 days typically, and which is what we have in Nigeria. It's not really enough for fathers to be able to bond with their children, or get to know the child. And they take turns. Yesterday was such a struggle for Benga. They take turns looking after the kids at night. When they're newborn, they feed every 2 hours. So I'm hoping that rather than talking about prayers in emails, these are some of the ways in which we can advance the quality of life of Nigerians and Nigerian workers, and we can begin to explore that. Honestly, when I think about these things, I think all of you should run for office at some point. You should maybe be a legislator, because I feel like...
What party are you going to...
That's a very tough question. That's the issue.
People are in the party that the youth thought would be the right party for them are now jumping ship.
That's the really sad thing, because it feels like even if you have genuine decisions and policies that you want to put forward, you have to learn to play politics in the way that these people play politics. They say to catch a rat, you have to know how a rat works. And you might be the best candidate, but in the wrong political party, or the party that doesn't have as much influence, you just be like a needle in the stack of hay. So anyway, time will tell. Once again, our best wishes to Benga, his lovely wife, as they navigate this new journey as parents.
That's right.
But let's talk about something that caught our attention, a video that was posted on social media yesterday. And in this video, the report, or what we could deduce from this video, is the fact that a man driving on the road, someone who had had an accident, and in his own benevolence, picked him up, brought him to the hospital. But the staff, the medical personnel there, refused to carry him. I won't tell the story. Let's take a look at this video.
People, they should bring out the patient. I just see them on the road, carry them. You say people, they should bring out the patient. See what you are saying. It's not. You say people, they should bring it. You, what are you doing?
I don't understand.
You don't understand what?
I
have already bring the patient here. Do you want me to do your work? What are you saying? Oh, it's not your work.
The person that brings out
you are on camera that you are saying it's not your work. You are on camera. You are on camera. You are saying that I'm recording you. What nonsense? I just assist some people. People are nearly dying. I just assist them. You say, can't you call them? See how this guy, see his situation. See his situation. It's something that you are recording, so you are record. I just see some people on the road. I just assist them. You are saying that what?
Your car is wrong.
Must you open the car? It's open.
Okay, it's open now. Where is what's his name? Elijah.
Let him die inside the car. No, my sister, I've already did my best. For me to see some people there and bring them to hospital. She's saying she's not my distance, it's not her duty, it's not. If it is your relative, can you leave him the way is it? If it is your relative, the person, there's no envelope. Okay, there's no envelope. Minister of FCT, Minister of City will see this video. You said there's no envelope. You see this video viral. You said there's no envelope in the hospital. No problem. No. I just see those people. They had an accident. I just carry them to hospital. You said there's no envelope. This is what you said, but no problem. Leave him. Let him die there. I'm on the video because there's no way.
No, you put all of us in the video. That's
Yes. See the patient. See his situation. Which kind of country? See him. This guy is nearly dying.
People should bring him out now.
People should bring him out. What is your work? Let me. Federal Medical Center. No sense. Accident on emergency unit. I brought a patient. All of them are relaxing. Nobody will come and pick the patient. Yes, the guy is nearly dying because they say so.
First of all, we apologize for, that gory picture there of the video with the man's head. But that video raises a lot of concerns. It raises moral concerns, legal and ethical red flags. There's so many things wrong with that video. And unfortunately, this is the reality of what happens a lot in Nigeria's healthcare sector. We don't talk about it as much, but there are people who feel afraid. I think we even should applaud the man for seeing somebody who had an accident on the road, stopping to pick him, because what we typically see would be people who speed up. And the reason they will speed up would be they don't want to be implicated. They don't want to get there and be forced to make a statement or accused of having a hand in whatever happened to the patient. Section 33, I believe, of the Constitution provides for right to life. And if by your actions or omissions you deprive a person of their right to life, then you certainly should have a case to answer. The Nigeria Medical and Dental Association Code of Conduct definitely has, I'm sure they should have something to say about this action of negligence. Maybe I should quote some legal references as to what this, how we can judge this matter. Section 20, sub 1 of the National Health Act provides that a healthcare provider, health worker, or health establishment shall not refuse a person emergency medical treatment for any reason. Of all reasons to even bring up is that they didn't have hand glove. What is the value of human life when it comes to, when we look at our Nigeria's healthcare sector, what really is the value of human life, Joe? That somebody was in the car. And you know that in medical emergencies, time is of the essence. 1 minute is enough to turn around a medical emergency. From that video, you could hear the man saying, it's been over 15 minutes, he's in the car, you're refusing to attend to him, you're refusing to pick him up because of hand glove, and they're asking the man that brought him to bring out this to bring out this patient. And he was asking them, if that was your family member, would you leave him there? Don't you have staff? Don't you have personnel that you're asking me that did my own best as a good Nigerian to bring him to the hospital? You're asking me to go and carry him out of the car like it's my responsibility. And the man then dropped not just that patient, but the other patients he carried and said, if you like, don't treat them. I'm not feeling anything. I'm not answering anything. This is the Federal Medical Center, Federal Medical Hospital. It's a government-owned facility. If you don't attend to him, then that's your business.
Olive, when I saw this video, I've been in shock. And it's not, people would say, not today, in our normal way of pushing things aside. But I dare to say that word "not today" should be removed from our everyday thought or conversation. Imagine that was your father. Imagine that was your brother.
Look at him lying there looking
Imagine
almost
that
lifeless.
was your husband. And you know the saddest thing about this is medical practitioners will agree with you that 15 minutes is well enough to save that person's life.
Absolutely.
Because in 15 minutes, a lot can be done. I worry because our institutions are slowly failing. They are failing already, but now it's starting to impact on every single institution. We already know that from the medical aspect, we have a big problem. Nigeria has a major challenge when it comes to our medical structure. It has always been a conversation from time immemorial. This issue of if an accident occurs and then you bring the victim to the hospital tells you no, go and bring police report. You go to the police, you try to get the police report, police say no, what happened, and so on. I was involved in a situation where we eventually lost our friend.
I remember.
And I remember I called and I said I couldn't come on the show in the morning because we were running around at night, Sunday night, and I eventually got home Monday morning at 6 a.m. Why? Same thing, accident. We're running up and down. The police, at some point, the police even said, oh, are you sure one of you are not the ones that killed her?
You see?
And we were livid. Like, what kind of talk is that? And he said, that it's like you people are the suspect. We were explaining to you what happened, how we rushed to the scene and picked the, so our entire I think as a country, we applaud the government for wanting to create, new roads, new things, and so on. And coincidentally, when I was talking to someone on Sunday, the person said, the Lagos Calabar Express is good. Just like our analysts have said, what happened to the ones that have been, already constructed and are in bad state, are poor, they are not good they are not motorable. The same thing comes to our institution, our hospitals. Can we focus and ensure that the hospitals this is a federal government-owned hospital?
Absolutely. Now, in reference to the case you just mentioned about going to the hospital with emergencies and they're asking for police report if it's a gunshot wound or the likes, Section 1 of the Compulsory Treatment and Care of Victims of Gunshot Act of 2017 provides that every hospital in Nigeria, whether public or private, shall accept or receive for immediate and adequate treatment with or without police clearance any person with a gunshot wound. The Act further provides that payments shall not be a precondition for treatment.
Olive, do these laws...
So
what are the National Assembly members? I think they need to now...
So this is another problem. The laws, I don't think we are failing for a lack of laws or lack of guidelines. I think even the medical practitioners, they have the guidelines that ensure this. They swore the Hippocratic oath, right, to prioritize and make sure that their focus is on saving lives. So I don't think that there's an absence in laws or an absence in ethics. The problem is, one, the enforcement of laws. I don't think that we have enough when it comes to, we've done enough when it comes to enforcement of punitive measures against erring institutions and erring medical practitioners. Because if you recognize that you are the difference between a person living and dying and you treat it with such nonchalance and lackadaisical attitude, they should be made to face the wrath of the law. Not just the institutions, not just the individuals, the institutions they work for. We need to make examples of people in a country where the current, I'm not quite sure, I was trying to check that online, the current patient to medical doctor ratio is dwindling by the minute because people are exiting the country. But you know what's funny? These same practitioners will go to the United Kingdom, will go to the United States, and in their accident and emergency, they will behave very differently.
Oh, what can we do? What can we do?
So I think, again,
is it the system?
It is also a culture thing. Maybe it is a Nigeria thing.
Because if you are my senior in the hospital, a senior doctor, and I saw the way you treated issues like this,
you are learning.
I'm bound to follow you.
Exactly.
The one behind me is also bound. So
it's the same way people, for example, will eat something and throw it on the road here, but when they go abroad, they will not try it. It's the same way people would do one way here, but they can't try it because they know they're getting tickets immediately abroad. So we do not have systems and structures that ensure that impunity is punished and good behavior is rewarded. We need to revisit that. We need to completely revisit that. But this, I'm hoping, we hear that investigation has been launched into this matter. It should not end at investigation.
No, it shouldn't. The FCT minister is known for development. He has spoken well about what he's done in the FCT. If you're listening, FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, we think this is where your strength and power is mostly needed. I feel pained. I feel sad. I feel like screaming. I feel sad because I don't even know what the end result of that is. I don't know if that man is going to survive. And besides, take note, I don't know, it might be wrong, medical practitioners as well. I mean, he's injured, they had to bring a wheelchair to put him and all that. What happened to our beds? What happened to our mobile? There's a lot going on. My own is the ridiculousness of you don't have hand glove, so you cannot carry him. First of all, why don't you have a hand glove? Though. I've been to Luth before, and then they tell you, oh, there's no hand glove. Oh. And I'm like, okay. See, you're just one sickness away from what are they going to do? They said, you know what they told her? If you can go and buy you, and it's not far away, you walk down there. You walk down, they sell it, go and buy and bring it. Then they will use it. I'm like, goodness gracious. Are we going to... And we say we are giant of what? Africa. Giant of what? So we need to do better with our healthcare. And this is not to paint everybody in the healthcare system with a bad brush. There are doctors and nurses who are putting in the work every day, regardless of the fact that the system hasn't been very favorable to them financially, who have stayed back, even when others have opted for juicier options or what seems like juicier options abroad. So for those doctors and nurses, we say thank you. Thank you for ensuring that you're here working hard, saving lives, saving our lives, regardless of how uncomfortable it is. But we hope that you'll be able to speak out when you see medical practitioners or healthcare practitioners like the one in that video who is lacking of empathy
If you don't, there are certain career paths that nobody forced you to. If you don't have a heart for people, you should not be in the medical profession.
I need to
You should not. You should not. You have no business. If you don't have a heart for empathy, you have no business being a doctor or a nurse. If you hate your job, you should not be in the police. The police is not a dumping ground. And it is because we have a shortage.
It is not side hustle.
It is not side hustle. We have a shortage of job opportunities for people, so people just find their way into whatever is available. That's why you start to see people acting in this manner. We need to flush out the system. There needs to be an overhaul, a complete overhaul. In Nigeria, you are one sickness away from your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
One sickness away from being poor, and your money cannot completely save you.
Impoverished and one sickness away from being bedridden or dead.
When people go abroad to have kids, I hear people say, oh, they're traveling abroad because they want to give their children passport. No, it's not necessarily because of passport. There are people who say, look, I want to be able to be certain that my life is prioritized, that I trust that this person will do everything within their power to save my life and the life of my baby.
Absolutely.
Have you heard horror stories of women in labor in Nigeria here? When they will say, open your leg, my dear. You know how you before. Now, I've heard women share gory stories of how they haven't been treated with kindness and empathy in the labor room. There are hospitals who do the work, but we cannot ignore the fact that there are a lot of bad eggs in the healthcare sector and they need to be flushed out.
And you wonder what the Medical Association is doing. You see, when we say there's systemic failure as a country, sometimes I sit down and I think about it, especially when you look at the children you've given birth to. You start to think and wonder, okay, what is the hope? What's the future? And at some point in time, about some months ago, I was no longer, anybody that says I want to jackpot, I would never stand in there. I'll be like, oh, go ahead if you must. Because there's a lot of thought process that is put in place. You think about see the educational sector. Look at how we are struggling. Look at those kids that suffered just 3 years ago while we were in our old studio. There was strike consistently. Now they've managed to finish. Guess what? No job. So now you come out. Now, if you put, the problems are so many. Institutional collapse is starting to look like it's the norm. Everybody says that is normal. So that's why a nurse would not be afraid to say, no, you bring him out or I'm not touching him. Where's the empathy? Which is what you also signed up for. It's part of your medical practitioning that, listen, you need to have empathy, you need to care for the person. There's none. We don't see it. And guess what? It's going to get worse.
And you know what is even shocking? She knew she was being filmed. She knew that she was being filmed, and if she could display that level of nonchalance in front of a camera, knowing that a camera was filming her, imagine what happens behind the scenes.
It's painful. I mean, we must also salute, let me use that word, salute, the courage of the
man who took her to the hospital, yes.
Yeah, the Good Samaritan who decided to use his car, take the person in, and run to the hospital. You are a true definition of what being a human, first of all, and then being a Nigerian truly is. Like we've heard from the past and also from our grandparents, Nigeria was built under a lot of good qualities. One of it is what you've displayed, which is love, going further, the extra mile. And these are the things we want to see. And for me, someone has said, listen, I saw them on the road, I picked them up. And this man who did this kind act, it doesn't look like someone who would not be willing to even say, okay, I have money. Let me drop a little money. Please go ahead and save the life. And that's what it is. Anyway, this is our first
really sad
conversation.
Story. Yeah, and the truth is, it affects everybody. It's not just, even the medical professionals themselves. I was reading up of a story that happened in 2014 where some doctors were traveling. I think it was from they were traveling from Ekiti State to Sokoto, and the 4 of them, they had a ghastly accident and they died. But later they reported that 2 did not die on the spot. If they had gotten proper emergency health care, it would have been a lot better. Here on the show, we take the front pages, and on the front pages, we're talking about the number of ghastly road accidents we're having per month, per year, doing a year-on-year comparison. Those numbers and the fatalities that emerge from them will be reduced if we can guarantee not just the quality, but not just the quality of healthcare, but the fact that there's empathy on the part of the healthcare professionals, and that they're not going to put their own personal bias, lackadaisical attitude, and their nonchalance towards attending to these patients or these victims?
I think we have something else to do, and
we need to talk about it on the show, actually.
Yes, and I also want to use this medium. Maybe, I mean, we highlighted one last week, and I think it's key. We also highlight this now. We need to have a town hall on Nigeria's medical system, a complete one where professionals.
Let's find out what the problem is.
I was talking to a doctor. I was in the hospital. That was like a few months ago, and I sat down with the doctor. And guess what, Oli? I would never forget this. He had his hand to his head, and I said, "Hey, doctor, with me, they come see."
He's not well.
Pidgin in my mind, I was saying it. I said, "Are you okay?" He said he's tired, that he's overwhelmed, that he has not eaten since morning.
And that even affects the quality of care.
That after he checks me up, please, he will need to go for 30 minutes and eat. And that's exactly what he did. After he checked me up, told me, okay, fine, go this, they should carry out a blood test and so on. He was gone for about 30, 40 minutes. I patiently waited for him, even though I was in pains. But I waited, and when he came back, people were shouting, "Where are you?" And I looked at them, I said, "You don't know what this guy is going through." He opened up to me, but I didn't tell them that. And when he told me, he said he's tired. He said, "We are short-staffed. It's just me, catering to everybody from morning, or from afternoon, up until this night."
So we either need to do a detailed report on this, a town hall, and then we can get the stakeholders, the doctors, the nurses, the midwives. Let everybody come together.
If I tell you all,
let's get the police officers.
Even slumped. One of his colleagues slumped and died in Louvre, just because of working hard. And he said he regrets why he didn't leave to what's that African country he mentioned? There's this African country. I'm trying to remember. Two names. It comes in two names. I'll remember in between the show. He said he regrets why he didn't go. That some of his guys went and they're earning 2 million, and his salary is not even up to 400,000 now, 300,000, and he's here. And I shook for a second, and I said to myself, "Oh my God."
This is a sad story. Please, let's move on to more pleasant stories. A video has emerged on social media of Nigeria's former First Lady, Patience Jonathan. And, we remember her for how very empathetic she was during the kidnap of the Chibok girls. She was such a sweetheart, really. Nigerians loved her. But now she's just bagged her PhD.
She gave them a lot of sound bites.
A lot of sound bites. She's bagged her PhD, and I think it's safe to call her Dr. Patience Jonathan.
Oh,
but let's look at her.
The real doctor.
Yes.
She went to the school.
Not the one that they paid for the doctor. Everybody's doctor. Let's take a look at this video.
My lecturer will get me angry and tell me, "Go and repeat this page." Say, this man don't know that I'm old. Very soon I will leave this scene and go and rest. But what am I going to do with it? It's just to keep the brain moving. Just to keep the brain moving. Give you glory. That thing that seems impossible.
And that's Nigeria's former First Lady who has bagged her PhD. Now, bear in mind, she really went through the process, and at some point she said, she asked herself, what is she going to use it for? But don't forget that she made a lot of impact during her time. Where her former president, Goodluck Ebele Azikiwe Jonathan, was president of Nigeria. We know her to be very outspoken. She did indeed speak against a lot of indiscipline, talk about the insecurity in the land. And then she also, to show that she really loved education. This is a clear indication of what we're saying, because remember when she called the teachers?
That's where
the popular voice notes and sound bites came. Not only you wakako. Yes. And then she talked about the death of the kidnap of the girls, and how she was so sympathetic with them, and she burst into tears. And then she called God and God and God.
There is God. That's what she said. There is God, though. Yes, and all the things we're doing. But I think that in this particular video, a number of things that stand out for me. The end of the video, at the very end of the video, she said, "If Patience Jonathan can do it, you younger ones, you can." And I thought that was very impressive. Patience Jonathan will be 68 in October this year. So if a 67-year-old woman could have gone to school, gotten her doctorate degree, regardless of who you are, how old you are, nothing can stop you. If you dream it, you can do it. She said it was important for her to do it, and regardless of the stumbling blocks, it was important for her because she needed to keep the brain working. Scientists and researchers will tell you that we don't end up using a large percentage of our brain. There are many of us who don't exercise the depth of what our brain can do. Going to school and studying is a way to activate and exercise your brain. So if you've been thinking about going back to school to pick up that extra degree, certification, or course, maybe this is your reminder. So congratulations to Dr. Patience Jonathan on becoming or bagging her PhD. And for those who like to, get extra doctorate degrees from, like Joe said, Cotonou, I'm hoping that they can go. Honestly, I used to appreciate that thing before.
I have to laugh.
And I still appreciate it because if they give me doctorate today, I will collect.
So I'll say doctor.
From my, but no, you're not a PhD doctor. You have an honorary doctorate degree, but you're not a PhD doctor.
But we have
many people who have honorary. Chimamanda has tons of honorary doctorate degrees. You will never hear her call herself.
I think we should use this medium to address this issue, Olive. Sometimes, we do have some of our distinguished guests to join us on this show, and they tell you, "Oh, I'm a doctor, please address me."
So the problem is that sometimes I want to ask. That's why the ones that have the PhD doctor now have to even put PhD now in front of their doctor to let you know that, look, it's not doctor that I paid for.
Please, is it PhD?
It seems like it's a trendy thing.
So
Entertainers,
and then there's so many
celebrities.
MSSC, PPI, somebody said APC, PDP, LP, NNPP, in brackets and all lined up. And then, like one of our guests rightly said, after you travel to Cotonou, you spend some time. There was a time it was trending where celebrities were.
That's what I was saying.
Up in,
That's what I was saying. A lot of actors. Everybody's becoming a doctor. And I feel like it then waters down what that thing is. If, for example, my university says, you've done us proud with the way that you've carried on, the way that you've contributed to the media, you've made us proud, we would like to give you an honorary doctorate degree. That's a well done, it's a commendation. But there's one particular school that comes to mind, one particular university. I want to call their name so bad. So I'll tell you the name when we go there. I think you know them.
I know one.
They give every Tom, Dick, and Bolaji a doctorate degree. People need to calm down with that honorary doctorate degree. It's losing the effect. Do
you know how many emails I've received? Maybe one day I will put one of the emails.
Doctorate degree that I pay for. That is one that they'll tell you to pay a certain amount for.
2.5 million. Then you have to pay this, pay that. Then you have to pay for the valedictory, service and everything, and then the celebration. You alongside a few persons.
That one is not different from award ceremonies where they reach out to you and tell you, we want to give you an award for Broadcaster of the Year. All you need to do is pay. I say pay what? If you don't think I'm deserving of that award, please don't give it to me. And I'm using this as a public statement. Like, there's no point. If you don't think that I don't deserve it, then don't give me. Why am I paying you? For me, it waters down the credibility of your award and makes it feel like it's highest bidder.
Well,
because one did last year and they didn't give me the award. If they thought I was deserving of the award, they'll have still given me. But they said I should come and pay tickets or whatever. Anyway, let's move on.
Bottom line, I think for me personally, this should be my 23 or 24 years in the media. I have never.
Me too.
Gotten an award.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say I've never gotten. I have never paid for. I thought you were going to say pay for.
Yes. And the reason is because, I'm sorry, but it's my personality. I don't believe in awards. I don't.
And that's okay.
I just don't. Because at the start of my career, getting to about 7, 8, then I started encountering these people who will tell you, oh, you know what, you're doing fantastically well. We listen to you on radio. You are fantastic. Great voice. Your show is good. Sponsored. You deserve an award. I'm like, oh, yes, let's go. And then they say, yeah, however, you might have to pay this amount. I'm like, oh, I have to pay for it? Nah. Then
so in all fairness, not all awards do that, right? I've won a number, and to be fair, of all these people, there are only 2 people who have asked me to pay, and I turned the both of them down. Every other one was, legit. They did their thing by themselves. So I'm just telling you so that you don't just close your eye completely and paint everybody.
It's a personal thing.
Unless that's your personal decision, but not every award is fraudulent.
There are some awards I've gotten that are so loving, so caring, and they're like one-on-one, they're letters.
Okay.
And I love it. I cherish those ones.
Okay, let's move on from awards. Do we have time for our third wake-up conversation?
Basically, we really don't, because we have to move on and go straight. But let's quickly touch it. A video is online. A video has been circulating online from yesterday. The man, otherwise known as Jandor, has gone back, and this time it was a mini, I like to call it a mini press conference. In that press conference, you would see the former PDP gubernatorial candidate, where he was seated with a caucus of the PDP. And they said they have collapsed completely the structure of the PDP, and they're now moving with Jandor to the APC. I wonder how PDP would respond to this, collapsing a whole structure in Lagos State.
But wait, I wish I could have gone to go and cut out the clip to where I said, oh, he's joining the APC. Who was I interviewing? I've forgotten.
Yes,
I said it on this show that, oh, Jandor is going to join the APC.
So after he joined, this one now he's going back. Anyway, let's watch the video quickly because of our time. And then you can react with all of these stories online.
In Lagos State, PDP structure in Lagos State from ward, state level, and align with His Excellency Jandor to become NNPP to APC.
The incumbent publicity secretary of the party of PDP, who happens to be the spokesperson of PDP in Lagos, who is authorized by law of the party and of the country Nigeria to speak for the party in the state of Lagos, has just spoken, and he has informed us that the entire structure of that party is collapsed and they have moved en masse into APC.
But this doesn't come as a surprise.
Everybody is moving. In short, Senator Imatswe is also...
From Labour Party.
Yes, he has announced that his own is... In short, he did a promo, I'm moving, on June 12th.
It reminds me of a song that we used to sing in secondary school.
Move,
I am moving, moving. The battle, they are moving now to APC. So... congratulations to all the... I don't think it comes as a surprise.
Are they strong enough to collapse the entire structure of PDP in Lagos?
Let's ask the PDP members in Lagos, so let us know if they think that Jandor and his team are influential enough to collapse the structure in Lagos State.
That's strong.
But that's all that we have to start up the show. We have more conversations this time with our guests joining us on the show to discuss a number of the stories that have happened in the past 24 hours. Let's now share with you what these top stories are. This morning on Breakfast Central, we'll be looking at the Benue attacks, the latest on the Benue. Armed bandits attack Benue community and injure residents, looting properties. And 34 embassies face the possibility of closure over unpaid ground rent in Abuja. Serap has asked that the FCT minister stops that. Igbo group calls out President Tinubu, saying that he failed Southeast and can't secure 25% vote. Army chiefs frontline troops in Kaduna to combat insecurity. The newspaper front pages. Join us for this. We'll open the phone line so you can share your thoughts as well. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has assured of the Army's commitment to collaborating with citizens in the war against insecurity and terrorism. Oluyede made this known during a special Salah luncheon organized for troops of Subsector 6 under Operation Fasanyama in Fatika, Giwa local government area of Kaduna State. Our correspondent, Joshua Imari, brings us this report.
The Salah launching in Fatika, Giwa local government area of Kaduna State, was more than a meal. It was a gesture of gratitude from the Army High Command to troops on the front lines. Soldiers under Subsector 6 of Operation Fasanyama were tasked to remain resilient as they combat banditry and insurgency in the region.
As the commander of one division, I will continue to do everything possible to ensure a safer environment under my watch. I also want to urge the troops not to rest on their oars, but to redouble their efforts to ensure that there is no safe place remaining for any extreme violent insurgent within this environment.
Representing the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Logistics, Major General Erema Kerejola, lauded the troops' professionalism and dedication, assuring them of ongoing support and improved welfare.
This is also to identify with the locals, to assure them that we are here to protect them and that we will not rest on our oars in ensuring that their safety, their livelihoods are protected. The troops are encouraged and assured that they have not been forgotten. Their families are well, and their well-being will continue to be taken care of. Completely behind them, we are with them, and we will continue to make sure that everything they need will be provided.
He also conveyed the appreciation of Army leadership to President Bola Tinubu for his continued support to the armed forces.
To His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his unflinching support, focused leadership, and strategic guidance. I sincerely appreciate Nigerians for their unwavering belief in the Nigerian Army and for their continuous support. The Nigerian Army remains resolute in defending Nigeria's territorial integrity against our nation's adversaries.
Officers and men who have distinguished themselves in the line of duty were awarded for their gallantry and their dedication to duty. The Army says that it will continue to combine military strength with non-kinetic strategies until peace is fully restored in every troubled region.
Gunmen recently stormed Sheanwam in Gwel West local government area and Eduku Ampali in Apa local government area, killing at least 33 people. An attack survivors describe as a night of horror, with villagers fleeing into the bush or jumping into wells to escape the onslaught.
The violence reportedly carried out by armed militias and suspected headsmen has raised concerns with renewed calls for urgent government intervention that will bring an end to endless killings. The question remains, why does this cycle of bloodshed continue and what is being done to stop it? Well, to help us understand the deeper context behind these recurring attacks, we're joined by Professor Patrick Ukase, a former head of History and International Relations Department at Kogi State University, Ayimba. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
It's my pleasure for having me, former head of department.
Absolutely, former head of department. All right, let's start off with these attacks. You have been definitely talking about it, whether you like it or not, when it comes to history. You do understand the history of the people right from when it was peaceful and now that is not so peaceful. Could you shed more light on what possibly is the problem and why these reoccurring attacks?
Well, if you look at the history of intergroup relations, quite often, most often it is peaceful, and there are instances of conflictual relationship. With respect to the conflict, like you like to put it in Benue, between the farmer and the herder, you recall that we've had a very, very peaceful relationship, farmers and the herders in Benue State for well over close to 100 years. We used to have a situation whereby herders will come all the way from the northern part of the country down towards the south for the purpose of carrying out their herding activities. But by the year 2000 and thereafter, we started having, possibly due to desertification, we started having a number of herders come down south for their herding activities, and then finding it difficult to go back because of the wonderful fodder that we have around the Benue Valley. And so, rather than go back during the farming season, planting season, they will remain. And then, quite often, there will be, disagreements and conflicts, skirmishes between farmers and herders within that period. But by 2011, in fact, from 2008, it took a different dimension where, like I said initially, they chose to stay permanently for the purpose of carrying out their own activities. And this now brought them into conflict because previously they would come during the period where farmers are done with the harvesting, and then as soon as the cropping season begins, they go back, to back to the north. But when they chose to stay permanently, they started, having conflicts with the farmers because quite often their herds will go into the farms and eat the crops. And thereafter, issues started emerging, and conflicts began between farmers and herders. But by 2017, it took a different dimension. I don't like to call it farmer herders because when you stay in your own farm, in your own home, and then people come, attack you, and run away, you don't call that farmer herder conflict. And then this has been going on perpetually for a very long time, in Benue State particularly for close to 2 decades now, in fact since 2008. And so the tactics is that they come, they attack, and they run away. And so you cannot call that farmer herders conflict because I don't know whether the farmers are in conflict with anybody, because you have a situation where even little children are sleeping, women are sleeping, you come, in the night, you attack them, and then you run away into the bush, only for you to reappear again. So basically, that peaceful relationship that existed for a long time, for close to 100 years, took a nosedive as far back as 2008, and here we are today. So in brief, that is what has happened so far.
Thank you for taking us through the history of how we got here and how the peaceful relationship took a nosedive in 2008. You talked about how these farmers are in their homes and in their own spaces, and external individuals come in to attack them and, kill sometimes even babies. And you said that you wouldn't refer to it as farmer herder crisis. So what would you say is the motive of the people who are carrying these heinous crimes, who are carrying out these heinous actions?
Thank you very much for that question. You notice that Benue is the food basket of the nation. Benue State is a fertile crescent. And because it is a fertile crescent, like I said, most of these herders think that because of desertification in the north, they prefer, to now grab land in this area and remain permanently. And so what they are doing is some kind of terrorism to send people away from their farmlands, take over those farmlands, and remain in those places. And that is exactly what they are doing. For instance, in Gwe West, for well over 10, in fact, since 2011, we've had people perpetually in IDP camps, particularly at Naka. Those people have not gone to their farms for well over 14, 15 years. Children that were born in 2011 hardly know the four walls of any classroom. They have not gone to school, and the economy of those families have been in tatters. And then you can imagine what will happen in the next 10, 15 years. But in the next 10, 15 years, the children that were born in 2011 will be hitting their 30s. And then it is a serious time bomb because they don't have any economic activity to engage in. They have not been trained. They have not gone to school. And so this is really worrisome. And I think there is need for government to take urgent steps in addressing this issue.
So in your line of thought, would you say that the government intervention has been very active? Or would you say that there's a shortfall when it comes to government taking charge and ensuring that solutions are indeed met to ensure that these things do not reoccur again? Let's get your thoughts on that.
If government intervention has been laudable, people wouldn't have been in IDP camps for close to 2 decades. That people are in IDP camps for 2 decades means that government has not been able to do enough. The synergy that we should see between the local, state, and federal government is not there. Security, in my opinion, is a tripartite arrangement. The local government have a responsibility, the state government has a responsibility, and of course the federal government. And they need to work in harmony to be able to achieve results. But you agree with me that we don't even have local governments in Nigeria. Just yesterday, I had a conversation where I was talking about the role that local governments can play in our security efforts. But then we don't have local governments. You know with me that we are still talking about trying to have autonomy for local governments in the country. And so local governments are the first steps towards ensuring that you have security. Local government chairmen and of course the community understand the environment. But then we don't have local governments in Nigeria. They have collapsed completely. And then you are now left with the state and federal government to tackle security. And so since 2011, what we've had is quite often knee-jerk reactions from government. Once they attack, security men are asked to come. They do one or two things, they move, and after a while, and these terrorists and these terrorists, they know the way our military, our security operatives work. And so once it happens, security is moved to that area. Once it is, there is some kind of relative peace, you find that the security men will leave and they come back and attack. So that synergy, that synergy that you should see between the local government, state, and federal government is not there. And so I think that government will need to be more serious. Government needs to be more, because the responsibility of government is to protect lives and property. We are talking about 2 years of the present administration and 26 years of democracy. Whatever we may have done, if people cannot sleep with their eyes closed, it's as good as we have not been able to achieve anything. Because what is much more fundamental and critical is ability for people to sleep with their eyes closed. Lives and property must be protected. If we have not achieved that 26 years into our democracy, it means that we have not done much.
That we speak of 26 years of Nigeria's democracy, what you're telling us here, that there are people who have been in these IDP camps for 2 decades. That's for the majority of our democracy. We'll come to, I want you to share with us the prolonged crisis and the effects, what this prolonged crisis has caused. I know earlier you mentioned about students who haven't been in school, people who have lived in IDP camps for 2 decades. But can you share with us, how this has affected local livelihood, food production in Benue, and the broader economic and security landscape in the Middle Belt?
You've said it all. I said Benue State is the food basket of the nation. It's a fertile crescent. Well over 10, 12 local governments are under siege. I will give you an example. There is a place called Sankara in Benue State. That is where yams are produced. In the entire West Africa, that is where the highest number of yams are produced. In the last 5, 6 years, those people have not been able to go to farm. And so you can imagine the implication on yam production in the country. And then if you come to Gwe West, my own local government, it is where we produce, rice heavily. In the past 11, 12, 13 years, those people have not been able to go to farm. So it's not only affecting the economy of the state, it's affecting the economy of the country and also impacting negatively on the economy of those families. Like I mentioned, a number of those children have not gone to school. Families have been in IDP camps. It is difficult to even survive under such environment. In Naka, in fact, in Gwe West, the entire 15 council wards are under siege. The only place where you can find people staying right now in Gwe West is Naka, the local government headquarters. And even Naka was attacked a week ago. So it tells you, the situation that the people are facing. And then because the local government headquarters is under pressure due to the influx of IDPs, there is scarcity of water, there is basic amenities are lacking. There are no hospital facilities to even take care of the IDPs. So we are in a dire situation, and I think there is need for urgent attention to be taken. Just last week, the Chief of Army Staff was in Benue State. Newspapers reported that he has relocated to Benue State, only for me to hear the next day that he has left. So I wouldn't know the strategies they intend to deploy at this critical point in time. But I think there is need for government to act swiftly. Or else, once people begin to lose confidence in governance or in the government, obviously, like I said, the responsibility of government is to protect life and property. And so when government is unable to do that, people will resort to self-help. And once they resort to self-help, we find ourselves in a Hobbesian state of nature where, people take laws into their hand and, survival is for the fittest.
Let's look at, our final question. There are statements allegedly linked to the governor of Benue State, pointing fingers at those in the National Assembly and also the federal government, stating that they are also part of the entire issue or crisis bedeviling the state. What's your take on that alleged statement? And secondly, which would be my final question, do you think that this entire attack has been politicized one way or the other?
I didn't get you completely, but I got the first dimension of the question where you are talking about allegations leveled by the governor. I'm not the chief security officer of the state. I am not privy to certain information. The governor is privy to those information. He leveled allegations on another television network that there are people that are instigating the conflict. I wouldn't know how he got his information, but he said that very soon he will lay that report bare for the public to see. As the chief security officer, he has privileged information. I will urge him to go all out, bring out the report so that security agencies can work on it. If anybody is responsible, nobody is above the law. If people are responsible for inflicting the pains that we've been going through for well over 2 decades, those people should be called to justice. They should be made to face the wrath of the law. And so it's difficult for me to say right now, it is too early. The governor made that comment and said we should wait and see how events will unfold. So we are waiting for the governor who made that allegation to make available the report to us so that we can now begin to see those who have been responsible for the injury that we have been facing in the last close to 2 decades.
Looking ahead, what sustainable and you'd say historical strategies do you think that you would love to recommend to the government that you feel and believe would solve this crisis permanently? Professor, if you could hear me, I'm saying what sustainable or historically informed strategies would you recommend to the government and that you think would solve this crisis permanently?
Working in synergy. But you recall that about a year ago, the federal government muted the idea of, state police. That conversation was very, very rife, and suddenly, it became government became very silent about it, because there is need to have an arrangement where the state can intervene. Quite often we hear our security operatives telling us that they have not received instructions from Abuja. We think that if there is state police, at the state level, the government can intervene. Security operatives will be more conversant with the environment to ensure that they checkmate whatever crisis that we face. Quite often we have complained that we cannot have a security arrangement where some of the policemen, some of the security military men that are posted to the environment hardly even know the place. And so there is need for us to talk about state police. I know that when President Tinubu was governor of Lagos State, he was the one that started that conversation on state police. So now that he's president, I expect that he will activate that process and ensure that it comes to fruition, so that we now have intervention not just at the federal level, but also at the state level. So there is need for synergy between the state, local, and federal. And also, we need to ensure that our local government systems are working. Quite often when we face crisis and you approach local government chairmen, they tell you they don't have anything to do. And so, but it shouldn't be so. If you are a leader at that level, you should be able to respond. But like I said, because there is no autonomy at the local government level, the chairmen, find it difficult to respond to the security challenges that we face. The state government will also need to be more proactive. Quite often, we wait for the attacks to happen before we begin to take action. We need to be proactive in ensuring that, communities, in fact, there are specific communities that are on the borderland. These communities need to be, fully protected. And of course, the federal government need to come strong on people that are making it difficult for communities to sleep with their eyes closed. I think it is high time that the president takes a drastic, step to ensure that we are able to sleep with our eyes closed. Or else, like I said initially, whatever achievements we may have recorded in the last 26 years of our democracy, and whatever achievements we may have recorded in the last 2 years of this current administration, all will come to nothing if people are not secured, especially in the 21st century. We can deploy technology, we can deploy everything we have in our arsenal to make sure that we, confront these terrorists. People cannot be more powerful than the state. We talk about the state having instruments of coercion, controlling instruments of coercion. It cannot be the reverse. Once it is the reverse, it means that there is a problem already. Thank you.
Professor Patrick Ukase, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Well, we certainly want things to be better for the people, for Nigerians. People of Benue State definitely deserve better quality of life and being able to go to bed and wake up without fear. Thank you so much for joining us and lending your voice to this conversation.
All right. Well, let's currently move on to our very next story and tell you that ahead of the commissioning of 17 key infrastructural projects within the Federal Capital Territory slated for Tuesday, June the 10th to July the 3rd. The Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, has commended the leadership of President Bola Tinubu for ensuring the successful completion and execution of the projects. The Minister, during a last-minute inspection, visited several of the projects already slated for commissioning and expressed delight at the state of works, including the support of the President.
Prudent financial management is key. Nobody can claim that he has all the resources in the world, but the ability to manage prudently is what is more important. We went to the International Conference Center. You can see how beautiful it is for world-class standard. We've been to the N5, done by Julius Berger, see the quality of job. We've been to Gishiri, see the quality of job done by CGC. Now we're NOSEX, we're going to report to WASA and see the quality of jobs. I mean, what would anybody say other than to say, God will thank you that we have been able to fulfill the promises the Renewed Hope agenda made to the people of FCT.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you're just tuning in, let's now bring you a recap of what we've discussed so far, and we can also let you know what's coming up next. A recap of the conversations we've had this morning. We spoke about the Benue attacks. We're joined by Professor Patrick Ukase as we explore the history of insecurity in Benue State and the way forward. Army Chief Faith's frontline troops, we did bring you that package. And the Minister of the FCT talks about last-minute inspection. But now let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. Coming up next on Breakfast Central, 34 embassies risk potential closure over unpaid ground rent in Abuja. And the southern eastern part of Nigeria says that President Tinubu failed them and can't secure 25% vote. Kwankwaso welcomes many to NNPP. Stick around.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The national leader of the New Nigeria People's Party and former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso, has received about 1,230 former supporters of defected lawmaker Kawu Sumaila. The defectors, who hail from Albasu and the Sumaila local government areas in the Kano South Senatorial District, were previously aligned with the Waraka political group, a rival political group to the ruling NPP in Kano State. News Central's Manu Bagudu tells us more in this report.
Another busy day at the popular Mila Road, the residence of the leader of the New Nigerian People's Party, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso is welcoming new party members, many of them followers of the Kano South Senator, Kawusu Maila, who has defected from the party to the APC. A decision that heated the political atmosphere in Kano as the NNPP continues to woo more members to consolidate its control of power in the state.
Wannan tafiya ba yaudara muke ba, wannan tafiya ba ta ci da addini ba ce, wannan tafiya ce ta taimaka wa al'umma gaba ɗaya.
Speaking on behalf of the defectors, Jamilu Zamba and Mariam Rumu reaffirmed their loyalty to the NNPP and praised Kwankwaso's leadership style. Other defectors who joined Kwankwaso's NNPP are from Bunkure and Tofa local government areas of the state. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
So we can say it's a season of defections. The transfer window are indeed opened, especially for political, you can say politicians who have decided to decamp and move from one political club to another. That's what we're seeing.
So now it's not just the APC that they're moving to. But remember yesterday when we talked about this, I remember asking our guest, Mr. Odotunwojo, I asked him, I said, APC, people are moving to APC now. NNPP is saying that they've welcomed 1,230 people to the party. And he said it's not just about quantity, it's about quality. That NNPP is welcoming people, regular masses, but APC is welcoming political leaders, and that there's a difference in that. So in this case, APC might still be having the upper hand.
Well, you might say so, but then again, remember that the North is a very stronghold of the NNPP, especially when you look at Kano State. But we do not know what will transpire, especially as we walk towards 2027. Unofficially, as said, campaigns have begun for the APC, whether we like it or not.
Unofficial campaigns.
Unofficial
like
campaign.
They say with football, this is politics, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Let's now talk about the Nigerian Army. The Nigerian Army has assured citizens of its commitment to maintaining the highest levels of professionalism and ensuring adequate discipline within its ranks. The theater commander of the Army's operation, Hadin Kai Abdusalam Abubakar, made this known to newsmen in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, saying that the Army is currently weeding out bad eggs within its ranks. Abubakar says that 69 personnel have already been penciled for court-martial over various offenses ranging from arms racketeering, abuse of citizens' fundamental rights, amongst others. He urged citizens to join the Army in its campaign against terrorism, saying that the terrorists are fighting against the progress of the nation.
We don't have a 100% record, but we've tried to be very open to you today. On the screen now, we're talking of the issue of arms racketeering. You can see that even some of our own have been sent to jail. So for those that are recalcitrant, that are caught, the rod is not spared. You face all the lines of operation that we need to face to carry out disciplinary action, and you are handed over to the civilian authorities for your jail term. Right now, we have over 69 people pending court-martial. Some are awaiting the confirmation of their trial. So we don't spare the rod where issues of human rights. It is not the terrorists against the armed forces. It is the terrorists against Nigeria as a nation. So once we begin to understand this and have a common front, I think we will be able to make a very tangible headway.
Very interesting one there, and that goes to show, just as you heard, that the Army will not tolerate any form of indiscipline. Well, we'll go straight to a very interesting story that has been generating a lot of buzz. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, is in the news again. No, we're not going to talk about him mobilizing members of the PDP yesterday, where they gathered and held a quick meeting concerning ensuring that there's a boycott of the convention in August. But this time, It's about the FCT minister who has issued a bold threat of shutting down 34 embassies in Abuja over unpaid ground rent. According to reports, embassies collectively owe over 3.6 billion naira in ground rent, some dating back as far as 2014.
The FCT administration had given a 14-day grace period, which expired today, June 9th. And now the hammer could drop anytime. I mean, this expired yesterday, I beg your pardon, June 9th. Now, has the minister threatened to revoke land titles and enforce penalties ranging from 2 million naira to 3 million naira per embassy? Is this a necessary enforcement of financial obligation, or could this lead to diplomatic disputes if not carefully handled? Joining us to discuss this development and its likely implications is Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Okpa. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We hear reports that some embassies, including Russia, Turkey, and Germany, claim they've paid their dues and are wrongly listed. Are we looking at a breakdown of diplomatic relations as a result of this? How do you foresee the implications of what this might mean?
You know, this is really interesting, and also it sounds like a child's play. You said the outstanding rent is 3-point-something million naira. Are you talking about naira? Are you talking about dollars? Because if it's 3-point-something million naira, that's like 2,000 or something dollars. And how can such an amount lead to a minister, going and painting on the embassy's, gate or posting something? I mean, how did we get to this sort of situation? Wasn't there an earlier correspondence contacting, the embassy people and say, hey, you are past due and your stuff, or you take them to court? But it just shows there's a mismanagement of mismanagement practices for you now to not go to the door and have the media and doing the stuff. I'm sure Nigeria should be embarrassed by this sort of behavior. If the minister of Wike is doing something like this, it shouldn't get here, because it's not an overnight something. If this is something that has gone on for years, and now all of a sudden you are physically doing what you're doing, I mean, Nigeria should be ashamed for something like this.
All right, human rights lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, has also jumped in on this. He has currently warned the FCT minister not to try it because it would yield diplomatic problems, according to his statement. But let me also ask, and just for point of correction, it's 3.6 billion naira,
okay.
Cumulative sum. Yes, that's what the FCT minister indeed doled out, 3.6 billion naira. However, do you think there should have been other ways to have communicated this issue, especially to the embassies, before bringing it out to the public? And what would this do to the image perception, especially for Nigeria?
Well, again, like I said, even if it's 3-point-something billion, we're not talking about dollars. I mean, it's not a whole lot of money in terms of, what is outstanding. What matters is here now is the efforts to collect. So this debt is not owed one day. It has been there for as long as it has been. Was there some correspondence? Was there effort made, sent to the ambassador or whomever is head of the property issue for the particular embassy? Wike or the FCT should have to show this effort to collect before they get in. And how is it that 34 or 38 of them refuse to pay? So gotta get to the bottom of why the refusal. Is it because they say we are not supposed to pay? Or is it because, the amount being asked to, ask them to pay, they said, no, it's too much or too little? There's got to be some of these things. You shouldn't get to this sort of, embarrassment. I mean, the embassy people will be looking at it and looking at Nigeria and say, what sort of government, what sort of leadership do you have to where you couldn't have resolved this matter and now making it a public display of nuisance?
Okay,
Anyway.
so how do you propose that this be sorted? I mean, you said that Nigerians should be embarrassed if he goes ahead with this. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations guarantees the inviolability of embassy premises. If Nigeria moves forward with closure, you know, you've said that it should be an embarrassment. Many wonder if this will not be a violation of the international law and if this will not have its own international backlash. So now that we are where we are, how do you propose that this can be dealt with differently?
Let me sort of kind of give you an example of myself. After the 9/11 attack on the U.S., I was one of 9 people selected nationwide to do site selection for new American embassies. At that time, I was given an assignment in Sri Lanka, Mexico, and Benin Republic. So for U.S. people usually own the embassy, okay? So they are not listing it, you know, they may list orders for certain people, but for the embassy compound itself, they usually own it. So is Nigeria giving this or gave these 34 embassies ground lease? Is it on the ground lease or on the building itself? In that order, you have established, okay, who pays what, when do they pay it? So how long has this thing been outstanding? Is it 1 year, 2 years? How come it's 34 embassies? Wike should be able to have showed correspondence from the time, you know, his administration has been in office, and that is what, 2 years? So was this something before the 2 years of his administration, or is this after? So we gotta be able to show this stuff, and then there are gonna be ways to do this. What I'm just saying, this is not like, you know, you go to your tenement building and you're trying to evict your own tenant because of not paying you. These are embassies, and Nigeria is the host to these embassies. So if Nigeria is gonna come out and put up this sort of public display of whatever, either poor management or administration of, you know, facilities for embassies, then the egg is on Nigeria. It's not going to be on them. So, you know, who is in charge of FCT is going to be the president. Is the president allowing him to do this? Wike, again, should be able to have showed memos, efforts. You know, before you evict somebody, you should have given them enough notice for them to do it. I mean, look at the people writing something on the gate of embassies. That's not just good. No, that's not just good.
The president, I mean, you spoke about the president, but what we're saying is that the president's intervention is basically to ensure that they gave a 14-day notice, and that the 14-day notice ended on the 9th of June. What other sort of intervention would you have expected from the president?
Okay, what I'm saying, 14 days after, okay? 14 days after then the president came in and said, okay, let me give you a grace period of 14 days. I'm saying before these 14 days, what was the effort? Wike should have, you know, prepared memos to hand to the press and say, this is what we have tried to do. They have ignored it. As a result, then what would have again done is you call the ambassador. You invited the ambassador to have a discussion. You know, there are ways you're going to manage this kind of thing so that both sides, you know, don't feel like you are being childish. So my question again is, has any of these things been done? That's the question should be, you know, asked Wike. Has he made effort to reach the embassy? You know, because the ambassador is the head of the mission. Hey, Mr. Ambassador, your country is behind, you know, the grant payment. We need to collect, and we're giving you this period of time to do it. If not, what you don't even have to do. I mean, what you have to do in this kind of state is just you know, shut them down. You know, don't provide them whatever security is supposed to do, but not to go to their gate and start painting on it and posting signs. I mean, again, you know, I'm in real estate. We do these things, and when you're dealing with, because every country where their embassy is supposedly is protected, and you shouldn't just go in there and start painting on their gates. It's basically what I'm saying. Now, again, who is going to be the joker in this whole process is Nigeria. It's not them. Nigeria, and it's not going to be good. The goodwill of Nigeria is being tarnished, by a conduct of somebody who should have done it differently. The president should not allow, any of his ministers to behave in a way that will bring, a disrepute to Nigeria. Nigeria image is already tarnished, good. So now you're doing something that is going to add more negative impact on that tarnished image. That's not good, is what I'm saying.
All right.
There are always these things could have been done.
Okay, in your conversation, you had mentioned that you were also given the responsibility or the task to scout for embassies for the United States in Mexico, not forgetting to Benin Republic. Could you share with us, is it part process that an embassy is able or would owe a federal government of the land a certain amount for a certain period of time? Is that the same case, especially for the United States of America? And if not, do you think it's something that would warrant an FCT minister like Wike to act just the way he's done?
So how long has this debt been owed?
Since 2014.
Okay? I'm sorry?
Since 2014.
So 2014, so that is how many years ago? 11 years ago. So Wike just jumping on it. Maybe Wike, at the time he became minister, should have started this question, writing memos, say, hey, you guys are past due. A debt is a debt. So you want to collect. So did he start when they were sworn in as minister? Because the Tinubu administration has been in office for 2 years. So when did he start making this effort? And how come the previous administration never pursued this? You should, again, this is where you go to the ambassador. You go in there and you seek a meeting, or you send your people to go and ask, send a letter, a demand notice. Usually in America, when you want to evict somebody, you send them a demand notice. And then you make all efforts, what they call good faith efforts, to collect. After that, then you go to court, and then the court will now say, okay, hey, Mr. Tenant, you haven't been able to meet the obligation of your tenancy, you're going to be evicted. And when that eviction is, they're going to send the constable. The constable is going to be the one armed with the paper that show up, and then they're going to throw you out. So it's not where you just have your own people painting on that. They won't. So Nigeria should have sent, people of either the army or the police or whomever does that thing, and go to the embassy, say you guys are going to go, or put a chain on it, just lock them out. So I'm just saying, what has happened to the point of people showing up at the embassy gate?
Well, at the end, we're looking at the international impact and Nigeria's image. That's why you're here as a global affairs analyst. But to wrap things up, we'd like you to wear the hat of a Nigerian, of course, in this part. The question simply is, right before the FCT minister, there was another FCT minister who was saddled with the responsibility of managing and taking charge of the affairs of every single thing such as this. I'm talking about Mr. Mohammed Musa Bello. Do you think at this point, since 2014, do you think the FCT minister may have fallen short, the previous one, may have fallen short in taking charge of his duties, which has now led to the current FCT minister trying to ensure that he covers up for that fall?
Yes, and if you look at the time span, he said 2014, obviously that was Jonathan's time. And then after Jonathan, you had Buhari, is it not? And then here we are. So the question is, how did the administrations overlook this stuff? The embassy should not be to where they are behind in their payment, because this is not like your regular tenant, occupying your space. So did Nigeria lease the land to them, is the question, or did the embassies buy, they got the ground lease and then they built the building? Because those are two different things. Did Nigeria build a building for the embassies and then they're occupying and not paying, or did Nigeria granted them the land lease and now they default in the land lease, but the embassies own the building. So these are some of the things that needs to be understood, and then at the same time, they go back, to make sure that this thing doesn't happen again. And how you do it, you straighten whatever the management thing is. In America, for instance, who owns our public buildings? For the embassies, is foreign building operations. Those are the ones under the State Department that handle the embassies. But for other ones, is the GSA, the General Services Administration. So, but it's still going to come down to a tenancy agreement, and that tenancy is it on the land? I'm giving you this land. I'm going to designate the embassy role, and then you're going to come in and build the building yourself. At the time, if you ever shut down the embassy, then you could sell the building direct to the Nigerian government that now decide to do whatever they want to it. Because embassy buildings are not like your regular buildings. They have their own flags there. They have, sensitive issues, in that embassy building. In fact, it's a protected environment, that gives them the title. Somebody has referred it to Geneva Convention and stuff. But the thing is, how come it took 11 years for Wike? Maybe Wike is not being proactive, but he's being proactive on the wrong foot, because he should have called the in fact, this thing should even make a public specter. He shouldn't have gotten to this point. But since he has gotten to this point, now it's got to be damage control. And those of you that are in the media, you know what it is. How do you manage this thing now? So Nigeria again is going to be the joker in this whole process. How come this is here? But maybe there he has a plausible reasons for it. But whatever the reason is, the cat is already out of the bag, and then we're going to now see how to manage it.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your thoughts on what might be the implication if this is carried out. We would, of course, continue to keep up to date with what's happening in the FCT regarding these embassies as well. Thank you for your time and have a lovely night. Thank you. It's always interesting, we upload our guests who have to oftentimes sleep. They have to wake up in the middle of the night to join the conversations because they're joining us from different parts of the country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Let's now move to another story.
Yes, let's tell you.
Igbo Elders Consultative Forum has declared that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has failed to deliver tangible development to the southeast. The elders warned that given the current state of affairs, the All Progressives Congress, APC, may struggle to secure even 25% of the votes in the southeast come 2027. Secretary General of the Forum, Professor Charles Nwekaku, made the declaration in an interview on Monday. According to him, the current APC administration has neglected the region's infrastructural and economic needs. The Don was responding to the argument by some southeast politicians that President Tinubu has done enough for the region to deserve re-election. For instance, during the 2025 Salah celebration with the Ebonyi Muslim community in Abakaliki, capital of the state, Minister of Works David Umahi hailed the impact of President Tinubu in the southeast and the entire country in general.
Well, Umahi credited Tinubu with reversing years of federal neglect in the southeast. Before now, many southeast states had no federal projects, but today the federal presence is visible across the region. That is true national integration, Umahi said, and I quoted. Well, Umahi also made mention of that to the glaring ears of all who were seated. But Nwekaku dismissed such claims as dishonest, and he said that that is absolutely not true. Well, this conversation is one that we would love to have with a representative from the southeast, but unfortunately, we've been able to extend our invitation, but time and the inability for them to join us this morning has led for us not to have a full conversation around this. But don't forget as well that you do have some of the persons in the southeast who have continued to hail the president and say that he's done more than enough. But anyway, these are conversations I would love to have, so please feel free, check us out on our socials and drop a comment or two. And let us know what your thoughts are, especially with these current conversations as well. But we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at more stories here on Breakfast Central. Do us a favor, tweet us, follow us, and drop a comment or two. on the stories we've brought to you so far. Stay with us.
All right, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We, of course, will be looking through a number of stories at some point. I mean, insecurity is a conversation that we need to look at. We hear reports of insecurity in Abraka. We'll have correspondents joining us to talk about insecurity in Abraka, as well as the unfortunate incidents of kidnaps in Agbaru. I don't know if we have Austin as connected, so we can get the updates regarding that. But, you know, Joe, it's really such a sad situation to see the state of insecurity in Nigeria and how we have to deal with very dire situations. Just yesterday, I was looking at a thread on X where people were talking about Japa, and everybody was sharing their reasons for leaving the country. There were those who shared their reasons of having been thrown into suffering. They talk about having, particularly the bus commute. There are those who talked about insecurity being a major cause, the NSAS season being another trigger. But I think that insecurity is one major issue that we haven't paid as much attention to. When we come back from the quick break that we're going on shortly, I'll be sharing the story of a retired major who served Nigeria, but Nigeria has failed him. And it's just really sad, seeing this. It feels like, on the one hand, we hear that insecurity has reduced in the current administration, but the practicality of that is one to be argued.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But anyway, like you said, after the break, we'll touch base with this story and find out how it's a sad one.
It's a really, really sad story. Nigerians have been sharing their thoughts about it on social media.
Yeah, online.
Yes. There's a lot of grief that people are carrying. And when you hear some of these people who have left the country as a result of insecurity, I listened to one, her family, she sent her testimony to a church in Abuja. And the church in Abuja, the pastor was reading the testimony. Joe, it was the most horrific story. And she said she will never step her foot home again, that this will never be home for her or her family, because not just her, her husband and her daughter, they were kidnapped. And I think they were molested. I think she was molested in presence of her husband. It was just the most gory details right now. And beyond it being a problem, it has now turned into a business. People have seen it as a viable tool. On the one hand, there's a law that criminalizes payment of ransom. When you tell people not to pay ransom and they're seeing their loved ones being carted away, it's just a really sad reality. But we'll go on a very quick break, and when we come back, I'll tell you the story of a retired Major, Pastor Joe Ajayi. Stay with us. So then you should have made a different decision. There's no way what Nigerians are saying could have happened. And you tell me to do it in 2 minutes when I have 8 tweets. Yes? It would have not been enough.
You can't do what Nigerians are saying.
You can't go and break. You can't go on break.
You can't do and then go on break. When they are editing out, they cannot.
It will look terrible.
Sometimes when they are cutting it from graphics, would they now cut and say you start and they go on break and then now make
just like saying doing which way Nigeria, go on break, come back and finish.
It doesn't work like that.
You are still trying to get Austin.
Yeah, but that one is not my fault now.
No, it's not you. So I'm trying to tell you what's next. After the break, you can take what Nigerians are saying.
I can't hear anything, no. I don't know what's wrong with this my talk back. I can't hear Jack.
So should we tell them to come and change it?
Can't hear.
I agree. I'm not saying it's not time bound. I'm just saying that I wish you had communicated to them that we have
planning now.
3 minutes.
Let's plan the time.
So that we'll have had a plan B, because I was taken off balance. I had to start trying to improvise on the spot. There's no way I could have done it in 3 minutes.
So you can take what Nigerians are
I'm saying after the break.
So when Austin comes, we'll prompt you.
Because it's a good segue.
Don't prompt her. Let her finish.
Don't worry. I'm finishing my own what Nigerians are saying. When I finish, we can then segue into Austin, because it's all insecurity.
Can they come and change my battery or something? I can't hear. I'm hearing chubba. I was hearing before well. But that battery don't die.
"76-year-old Pastor Joe Ajayi, a retired major of the Nigerian Army, was kidnapped in Oduakpe, Kababunu local government area of Kogi State. He survived the battlefield, but not the country he once sought to protect. At first, his abductors demanded 50 million naira. His family couldn't afford it, and then time ran out. Sources say that while in captivity, Major Ajayi's health began to fail. He had no access to his daily medications. The family pleaded to send them across, but the kidnappers demanded more money just to allow him access to his life-saving drugs. Then when his captors realized that he couldn't survive, they slashed the ransom to 10 million naira, and his family, still believing he was alive, quickly gathered the funds. After payment, the kidnappers then told him or gave directions to where he was being held, but it was too late. They found his lifeless body, a decorated military man, a pastor, a father, a grandfather, a patriot, abandoned. His body now lies at the Kaba Specialist Hospital mortuary, as his loved ones grapple with a grief compounded by helplessness. This tragedy isn't isolated. Just weeks earlier, Oba James Dada Ogunyonda, the Oba of Okoloke in Yagba West local government area, was kidnapped from his palace. He still hasn't been released. Kogi West is bleeding. Kidnapping is no longer news. It's a business, a system, a death sentence for those too poor to buy their way out. So again, we ask, how many more? How long before Nigeria starts protecting its own? Not just the ones in uniform, but in old age, in peace and in faith. Major Ajayi gave Nigeria his youth, but Nigeria gave him his body, and it gave back his body to his family in a body bag. Nigerians have been reacting to this, of course, on X, and we're now going to share with you the tweets of Nigerians sharing their thoughts on this. And our first tweet this morning is from Ayodomi. He says, they have bastardized the once glorious Nigerian army, a force most African countries would shiver at the mention of its arrival or name, a force not one dare face without regretting it. Imagine a whole army general kidnapped, killed despite ransom paid. If the powers that be are not ashamed, then the whole lot of Nigerian army should be ashamed for not being able to protect one of its own, not to talk of the citizens. If this can happen to a retired army major, now imagine a lamer or a lame person like you and I. And then it goes on, let's take on the next tweet that says, the labor of our heroes past must not be in vain. Yet, here we are, a few driven by selfish political interest keep the cycle alive. Meanwhile, someone's father, husband, grandfather is laid to rest in chaos. Tragic. It is well. Well, it is not well. Chinemeluma says, when you fail to address the problem when you can, the problem will address you when it can. It's so sad. Insecurity is ripping Nigeria apart. Amara says, if the military cannot rescue their own, then who are we? May his soul rest in peace. Amen. Gracious Grag says, he retired back home to rest, but even that was denied him. What a country. And Uche shares his story, says, I still thank God till today that I didn't die in the kidnapper's hand. Imagine a retired soldier, ordinary person like me. They kidnapped me from my own house, and I was released after paying ransom. Nigeria is not safe, but they keep pretending in the midst of insecurity. Our next tweet is from Observer OBL, who says, I'm ashamed of our government and politicians. This is a country where no single soul is sure of seeing the next day because of uncertainties. Pathetic, he says. Global Bomb says, when it rains, it falls on the rich, the poor, the powerful, the weak. It does not select anyone. I sincerely hope those who think they are rich and powerful and feel like some things happening in society can never affect them are taking notes. These are some of the reactions that have been to the kidnap and the killing of Pastor Joe Ajayi. Now recall that the Oba of Ogunyonda in the early hours of, sometime, I think it was Thursday, it was in May, he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped. A group of heavily armed men stormed the monarch's palace at around 2 a.m. And the assailants were said to have overpowered the palace guards and forcibly whisked away a king. If they could do this to a king, the king is yet to be returned. If they could do this to an army major who has now unfortunately been killed or he's lost his life, we can't say for sure if it was that he died because he was detained. But even if he died because he was detained, the fact that they could still keep him until his health deteriorated to a point of death, then they are culpable in his killing. It shows us how much of a challenge insecurity has become in Nigeria. When we hear stories about insecurity, being insecurity being reduced or being overpowered in Nigeria, it brings to mind the question, like when we hear stories like this, what exactly is happening? Earlier on, we spoke to a professor in Benue who shared how far we've come and how he wants for the government to step in and do something, urgent to be able to curb the insecurity challenges in the state. We're bleeding, and it's just not fair. Nigerians deserve better.
It's not fair. I mean, I was looking at, while you were reading that story, I was looking at some of the laws that protect the citizens' rights in Nigeria. And you do have a death penalty hanging on the neck or necks of kidnappers once they are identified or caught. And it says kidnappers whose victims die while in captivity, such as the case of the former Major General, are subject to death penalty as well, according to the law here in Nigeria. And also, you do have a lot, especially looking at the penal code and so on from Nigeria. Olive, we've come to establish one thing here on the show this morning or today, like we've always established. But today, I think we're highlighting it that Nigeria is not bereft, or Nigeria does not have laws. if you say so, but it does have laws. So we're going to say that Nigeria has enough laws that that could guide and help citizens, especially during these tumultuous times. But the problem is the implementation. Implementation has always been a major challenge. In the aspect of this kidnapping, we've spoken to so many people. We've spoken to retired military generals. We've spoken to security experts. They've come here. But it makes you wonder why we cannot, up until today, nip these issues in the bud. Hence why, just like the guests we had, the professor and many who have come here to speak with us, they've said, let us call for state police. Because if there's state police, the police will be responsible for its own jurisdiction. The police will be responsible for its own state, of course, reporting over to the federal police. But then again, like you have in the international community, you have the CID, you have the NYPD, you have all of them. So everybody works in tandem. Regardless of that, we're not saying that it will stop insecurity, but we can reduce it to the barest minimum.
The thing is, are we prioritizing it as much as we are?
So
the truth is that with the insecurity challenges, I believe that it's grossly underreported because we have a challenge with data management, data collation in Nigeria. We know that a number of the things that we are seeing are, a number of the insecurity challenges that we're seeing haven't been reported. The ones we have seen are the ones we're talking about. What of the ones that have not been reported, the ones that we haven't seen? Abraka in Delta State right now is facing its own challenges. There have been reports of herdsmen who have, kidnappers who have been attacking. In fact, there was a report of kidnappers that were killed and then reprisal attacks that have, been carried out to kill certain people because kidnappers were killed. So kidnappers even have the nerve, they have the confidence to be able to carry out reprisal attacks. I'm hoping that we can speak with Austin Azu before the show wraps up, so we get a clearer picture of what exactly is happening in Delta State. But it's a sorry sight. And so you see it's in different pockets of the country. Delta State has its own. Kogi,
it's spreading.
Dealing with its own. Benue has its own.
It's
and
spreading.
For anyone who thinks that, it's not going to come to me, I'm safe where I am, think again. Like they say in social media parlance, they touch everybody.
It's spreading, and it's spreading very, very fast. I recall what happened in 2022. Remember when they kidnapped 27 students of the Baptist Church school, and then they were later released. Immediately, the National Assembly did pass a law in 2022 that anybody who pays ransom for the release of a kidnapped family member, victim, name it, that person will serve 15 years in prison. If you weigh it and look at it with the jail term that is given to one who engages in kidnapping, you see that it doesn't correspond as well. 10 years, 15 years for one who pays. But you also go back and say, since that law was being passed, that bill rather, was being passed, has there been any clearer indication that shows that Nigerians are no longer paying for the release of a kidnapped victim or family member?
I mean, this story I just shared, they paid 10 million naira. People are paying.
No, many stories. We've taken so many stories here. And like you said, yes, underreported. And you find out that people are still paying because when they take your loved ones, you would ensure that they gain their freedom. It's worrisome because one of the tweets you took really struck a chord in me. That tweet where the person said, sadly, they're now focused on politics. This has been an ongoing conversation. We did have a spokesperson to the president who joined us here on the show, myself and Benga, and then I asked him that question, simply stating that it seems like the focus on governance has been reduced to the barest minimum, while the focus on 2027 is what is right in front of the current administration. And he said, no, he got angry. I said, don't say that. I don't like the way you put it. I know where you are going, and so on and so forth. And I said, but that is what he's looking like. How do we know this? All right, let's talk to the audience. Just browse your phone. Check the stories you find on the papers. Check the stories you find in the news. What do you see? This person has defected. This person has defected. The political party has this. I visited the president. I told him, oh, you can do more.
The president has said
this. The president has said that. This. We have so so much of, if you're to rate it, as journalists, we do our due diligence, and we can tell you that if you're to rate political stories in line with what the situation on ground truly is, it's a case of 60, 65, or 70, 30. And that 30 is also being divided as well. You still have some little stories around politics as well. But it's really sad, Olive. It's really, really sad.
It's a really sad one. Our heart goes out to the family of Pastor Joe Ajayi and, as many who are mourning him, and really the rest of us here in Nigeria. We're going to quick break now to bring you the news. And after that, of course, we'll share with you what's still to come on Breakfast Central.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's quickly give you some of the latest stories from around the world of news. Let's begin with the breakfast headlines by telling you that 4 people, including 2 herders and 2 farmers, were reportedly ambushed and killed in Uwokishe community of Kekek district of Basa local government area of Plateau State. 2 persons who were critically injured during the incident were rushed to Jos University Teaching Hospital, Joth, for medical attention. According to local sources, the ambush occurred while the victims were heading for mining sites. The attack on the victims has caused confusion amongst residents, given the long-standing tensions between Irigwe and Fulani in Mango district of Basa. Meanwhile, contrary to viral reports circulating online, former Chief of Army Staff, retired Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, is alive, well, and residing safely in Abuja. That's according to his close aide and former Army spokesperson, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman. In a statement released on Monday, Usman dismissed the rumors as earthly false, calling them the work of mischief makers out to stir fear and confusion. Lawmaker representing Borno South Senatorial District, Ali Ndume, had earlier disclosed that Buratai narrowly escaped death after his convoy was ambushed near a frontline military base in Borno State. Usman, however, stressed that Buratai was not attacked in any way, contrary to what has been falsely reported by some online media outlets. Usman added that the retired general, who also served as Nigeria's ambassador to the Republic of Benin, marked the recent Eid celebrations peacefully in Abuja, surrounded by family, friends, and well-wishers, and has remained in the Federal Capital Territory. Well, away from security matters, ahead of June 12, Democracy Day in Nigeria, residents of Rivers State say they have no reasons to mark the day following the suspension of the legislative and executive arms of government. While some residents are calling for the reinstatement of the governor and lawmakers in the spirit of the sacrifices characterizing the June 12 Democracy Day, others lamented that there has been a sharp decline in economic activities and general livelihood in the state. Let's go now to infrastructure. Ahead of the commissioning of 17 key infrastructure projects within the federal territory slated for Tuesday, June the 10th to July the 3rd, the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, has commended the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for ensuring the successful completion and execution of the project. The minister, during a last-minute inspection, visited several of the projects already slated for commissioning and expressed delight at the state of works, including the support of the president.
Prudent financial management is key. Nobody can claim that he has all the resources in the world, but the ability to manage prudently is what is more important. We went to International Conference Center. You can see how beautiful it is for world-class standards. We've been to the N5, done by Julius Berger, see the quality of job. We've been to Gishiri, see the quality of job done by CGC. Now we're in Norsex, we're going to report to Wassa and see the quality of jobs. I mean, what would anybody say other than to say, God will thank you that we have been able to fulfill the promises the Renew Hope agenda made to the people of FCT.
The news continues in Central Africa, where security forces in Douala have blocked access to the headquarters of the Movement for the Renaissance of Cameroon. The opposition party, led by presidential candidate Maurice Kamto. Kamto was prevented from entering the party's headquarters despite the presence of a large number of supporters gathered for a scheduled meeting. The police maintained a strong presence around the building, effectively barring entry to both Kamto and his followers. This move has heightened tensions as the MRC continues to face restrictions amid ongoing political challenges in Cameroon.
Quand les piétons vont circuler, nous sommes dépassés. Quand la force de l'ordre nous empêche d'aller au siège, nous sommes dépassés. Il avait demandé, l'arrêté du préfet a dit que les gens, les motos ne vont pas entrer, mais les piétons doivent entrer. Nous sommes dépassés.
Make sure to get a full package of the news at 12 o'clock West African time here on News Central. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, let's see what the front pages are saying. Plus, we'll also take a look at insecurity situation in Delta State. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're now looking at insecurity, and this time we'll be headed to Delta State, where our correspondent Austin Azu is live in Abraka and brings us updates. Good morning, Austin Azu. What's happening with regards to insecurity in Anambra State? We hear there's been a series of attacks, reprisal attacks. What is happening in Delta State, I believe, yes?
We are in Abraka. Yes, we are in Abraka, the academic community, the first university in Delta State after its creation in 1991. Abraka for the past few days has been boiling regarding to insecurity. And of course, we saw some records of harvest by the local hunters in collaboration with the Nigeria police. The war against insecurity, they clamped down on 4 victims who were involved in kidnapping activities and other nefarious activities within Abraka and environs. And of course, the state government has directed the security agencies to deploy their tactical teams to Abraka to enable the students and other residents of Abraka to sleep with their 2 eyes closed. But however, we are with some students here to give us an update. All right, Israel Ogenekaro. Okay, Israel, tell us, as a student, how has the insecurity in Abraka affected your education and other of your colleagues?
Okay, thank you. First of all, this kidnapping issue is so rampant now that even the kidnappers now will capture people, capture students, both male and female, capture them, collect some ransom, then still kill them. And this is also affecting us in our school aspect as well. Because we students, to even go to class now, it's even hard for us. It's just like 50-50. You get, like, okay, go to class, anything can happen. We are just trying to be very cautious of ourselves, and we are just praying that God will help us, that we will not be captured by these kidnappers.
Okay, since the incidents of this insecurity in Abraka, has anybody come to your rescue? Has there been anything done by the Students' Union?
For now, I have not experienced anything happening around my area or my vicinity for now, but I think the SCG government and the school authorities are doing something towards it.
Just stay here. Okay, we have Ikechi, who will bring us to speed. Of course, you just graduated from the school. Ikechi, tell us, you still reside within the school environment. How has the insecurity impacted students, particularly the female students, within the school environment?
The issue of insecurity has really affected us a lot. You know, as females, walking out in the evenings, coming out in the evenings is almost very unsafe. I think recently there was even a case of someone that was adopted, and it was a lady too. So ladies are usually scared to come out. And even me, I reside in Abraka and I currently do business in Abraka. It has affected my time of closing. I have to close earlier than I usually close because the town is not so safe anymore. Although there are police people patrolling, but it's not so safe. So usually business people just close. Businesses close earlier than they normally close in Abraka currently. That's how it has really affected us.
Okay. Since the arrival of the security personnel in Abraka, have you discovered any kind of improvement in terms of security?
I think so. I think there have been improvements. They have been patrolling up and down. So even if there's somebody that has intention to do something like that, because they are around, it has reduced greatly. And the fear that we usually have, since we are seeing police people around, the fear has also reduced because we know that these persons are around, if at all. So yes, it has helped us.
Okay, just take it for a minute. All right, Israel, do you have confidence in the Nigeria police to protect lives and property in Abraka, or do you think that instead of them to be patrolling within the town, they should go inside the bushes?
I don't know what to say right now, but I think the police are trying their best. The armies and the rest are trying their best. So I think they should work harder, like go into all these bushes, because kidnappers are inside. There are much kidnappers inside, so we need the security to do much better. Please, thank you.
Okay. All right. Finally, from you, Keshi. Now, what do you think should be done regarding this surge of insecurity? And can you categorically tell us that apart from kidnapping, what other insecurity challenges do you guys face here in Abraka?
Apart from the current kidnapping, Abraka has actually been safe. To my understanding, Abraka is a safe place. Aside, okay, maybe sometimes when they have their festivals and we have to just stay aside, Abraka has been a safe place. What I think they should do is to just go to the actual places where these persons are, because sometimes you hear that they kidnap in this place, but we now know that their hideout, so as he said, is inside those bushes. So I believe if they can penetrate those sides, they'll be able to find them. And we also heard that I don't think they are so experienced with the kind of things they are doing. I think our security force will be able to handle them. So if they go there, they will actually run away, and the town will be safe again. So I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Israel, finally from you. Now, the worms that eats the vegetable lives inside the vegetable. There are a lot of speculations that some indigents are fingered in this whole insecurity in Abraka. Do you subscribe to that?
I would say yes and no, because these kidnappers can't just come from outside, just come. I think they have a sponsor, like they have someone sponsoring them, and I think the government should please find these people, know their roots, because our life is at risk just right now, because kidnappers are still out there. Of recent, I heard that police shot 5 kidnappers at Station Road, at this junction. So please, the government should please do something, please, because our life is just on right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. However, there are some information we gathered on ground here that most of these kidnappers operate from the bush, and especially from the railway area. So it means that the security agencies need to beam their satellite on that railway axis to enable them to curtail these excesses. Back to you in the studio.
Much, Austin Azu, for bringing us up to speed with regards what's happening in Abraka. Really sad. That used to be a place that I visited back in the day many times, my alma mater. So it's really sad to see what's happening there. I hope that insecurity can be fast dealt with and students can live a decent quality of life. Thank you, Austin.
All right, away from Austin now, we do have our guest in the studio. The publisher of the Niche newspaper, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, joins us live. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Well, we could be fine, although why we're not too fine is because the stories that sometimes you hear, as a journalist, sometimes can get you in a state of worry. I mean, we're looking at insecurity. Olive did take one story from what Nigerians are saying about the
retired major
and the pastor
was killed, 76-year-old man, collected 10 million naira ransom from his family, and then left his body for the family to pick up.
And here we are again in Delta State. The students are also saying that it's now a trend where they abduct students, ask for ransom, and then sometimes they kill them.
Last week we discussed that here. It's amazing when people come to gaslight their fellow Nigerians for complaining. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria is quite insecure. And look, in In Benue State alone, there are over 1 million people living in IDP camps in their own country that claims not to be in a war. People living in IDP camps. So what happened to their ancestral homes?
Sorry to butt in. That's what one of our guests said, who joined the professor, said those in Benue State, they've been living in IDP camps since 2014.
For 2 decades.
So you know, it's sad where Nigeria is. And to imagine that we have a crop of politicians who don't lead, who don't provide any vision as to how we can get out of this mess. All they are interested in 2027, or they are interested in every other politician decamping to their political party, and Nigerians are clapping. We are in it together. If this country fails, it's going to fall on all our heads, and nobody is going to be better for it.
It's a problem.
Okay, let's go into the Daily Independent newspaper, beginning with that. Speaking about politics, I'm sure Mr. Michi will not like this headline. It says, after God, my loyalty lies with Tinubu, says Umahi. Obi accuses Tinubu others of orchestrating Labour Party crisis. Daily Independent's front page, the big stories, macroeconomic gains at risk as parallel FX market stress grows. Still on the front page, we see here, PFAs turn to creative industry to reach informal sector. VCs get knocks over delay in processing students' academic record. Jandor leads Lagos PDP spokesperson, other party chieftains to APC. I'm sure that you're not surprised to see that happening. It was expected. It wasn't about where is he going to, it's about when is he going to the APC, when is he announcing his official decampment. Wike rallies PDP stakeholders, warns against disunity, says no opposition party can survive without cohesion. Presidential aide Aliu Audu resigns from Tinubu administration. I think that's the story we'll start with, but let me go through the others. NNPP warns against fake representation claims. Serap urges Tinubu to stop Wike from shutting 34 embassies. But let's start with the presidential aide Aliu resigning from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration.
Did you read the reason he gave for resigning? What did he say?
You know, he doesn't want to be a part of, you know, the state leaning towards a one-party state.
So, and what is there to say? People who have conscience can't but disagree with what is going on. Look, I won't get tired saying this. It's a different thing if the Tinubu administration, or in fact, if we go back to 2025, the APC that has been in government since 2015 has provided Nigerians with quality leadership that people say, look, why can't we identify with those who have made our lives better? The question I continue asking, let that Nigerian who claims that he is better off today than he was 2 years ago, let him raise his hand. Let that person honestly raise his hand that his quality of life is better today than it was 2 years ago. That all the indices of human development, that any of them is pointing north since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into office. If we stretch it to 2015, let that Nigerian, because, you know, even the Tinubu administration, members of that, this administration admit that the 8 years of Tinubu, Buhari, years of disaster, they have said so themselves, that they made a mess. And you see people coming to tell us, okay, Buhari used 8 years to blame PDP's 16 years. So what excuse does the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, what excuses do they have for not delivering on the promises they made prior to their election in 2023? So the man who is resigning, will I say he has a qualm of conscience?
I was about to ask, do you think it's reflective of his integrity? Remember that this is not the first aide we're seeing resigning. Hakim Baba Ahmed had resigned earlier. The special advisor to the president on political matters had resigned earlier as well, saying that he didn't think the administration had the necessary tools or maybe the drive to fight poverty and the likes, right? So he basically did not believe in the mandate of the party and didn't want to be seen as one of those politicians that move from political party to another. So when you hear of individuals like this, do you think it's reflective of their conscience? Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, Anjuri Ngelale was sacked. And he was asked to go because of the rift between him and Bayo Onanoga. That of Baba Ahmed, I don't have any sympathy for him. In the first place, I don't know why the guy went into government. In the first place, because he should know. If you engage Baba Ahmed, you will appreciate the fact that he is a very intelligent man who knows what the issues are. So when he made that move, that he was accepting to be an head of the president, and of course he was seconded to the office of the vice president, I was asking myself, does this man know what he is getting into?
Maybe he thought it was an opportunity to effect change.
That move was too opportunistic. Look, how are you going to effect the change? How? Okay. He got in there and found out that he could not even make one change and had to quit. So when he's talking now, people are not going to take him serious, just like I'm not taking him serious. Because, look, there must be principles in this country, in our politics, for us to move forward. We must have political actors who act on the basis of conviction, not opportunists.
Maybe like the ones in Akwa Ibom who have refused to move with Governor Eno. Let's take this call from Prince, calling from Abuja. Good morning, Prince. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead. Oops.
Oh, what's that?
So yes, you don't have sympathies for Hakim Baba Ahmed. Do you think maybe that the commissioners who refuse to move with Governor Eno are standing on business and principles?
I would rather say they are, because look, the only thing that made, if you go through all the what we call in local parlance, dogotorunchi, that Akwa Ibom State Governor taking Akwa Ibom to the center, Akwa Ibom being a major contributor to the national economy, and therefore they don't need to be outside the center and all that. The only reason why Governor Eno became to APC is political survival. He thinks that with Akpabio as the number 3 citizen in the country, and the kind of cloud that APC has, if he continues to be in PDP going into the 2027 elections,
nothing for him.
There's nothing for him. So his joining APC is personal political survival, nothing else. So to come and tell us about how and so what? Didn't the man, his predecessor, he was not part of the center, in quote, when he was governor. Did Odom not deliver? Did Odom not succeed in getting him in as his successor? So what's all these stories? Is there any evidence that Odom did not deliver on his promises? So, and you know, we look, Akpabio was governor of Akwa Ibom. Don't forget. And Akpabio prides himself, even till tomorrow, as a man who delivered on his mandate as governor of Akwa Ibom State. On which political platform did he do that? PDP. It's not APC. So when people take, I've argued here that it is immoral. Some people say there should be no morality in politics. I disagree, because even amongst thieves, there should be some honor. Look, you can't take mandate given to a political party and whimsically transfer it to another political party.
So I think that this may be the norm until we have maybe some form of judicial legislation that establishes this, a fresh judicial legislation, because we're seeing that happen. That was sort of what happened in Rivers State when the House of Assembly members elected on the platform of one party, moved to another party, and then decided that they are coming back to the party that they initially left. And Governor Siminalayi Fubara was expected to take their moving up and down back with folded hands until the president had to intervene. And look, here we are, state of emergency. So it feels like we're setting a standard for how things will be done in the nearest future in Nigeria. I mean, it's already happening here, but this will be the norm. People will be elected on one party. People will start using political parties like vehicles, get into office, then go to the party that you genuinely want to be with.
It is still part of the lack of integrity in the political space. The Constitution is quite clear on conditions that can warrant a lawmaker to switch political camp. And there is a penalty. Yes, that Constitution is silent on the governor or deputy governor, but it is very explicit on a lawmaker. You lose your seat. You lose your seat. Unless there's a split in the political party that brought you to power, or there is a merger. Those are the conditions under which you can switch political loyalty. But here, because of the level of impunity, it has become a norm that you wake up in the morning and the judiciary is not helping matters. You go to courts, the courts won't give any kind of ruling. This democracy, the way it is going, we are endangering collectively the politicians and the judiciary. We are endangering the very essence of what is our democracy, and the norms are being eroded by the day. And why that is going on, people are clapping, people are dancing, people are not seeing the danger inherent in what our politicians are doing. Well, let's watch and see, but we are not going anywhere with the way this... Look, what is it that APC has delivered in the last 10 years that will make anybody leave his political party and join APC?
They have delivered presidency.
Yeah. And a whole lot. But let's take a look at still the Daily Independent. There's a story there that I'd like you to react to. Jandor leads Lagos PDP spokesperson, other party chieftains to APC. I don't know if you've seen the video where Jandor said, the spokesperson said they've collapsed the structures of PDP in Lagos. I don't know. I think we have that video. Let's hope we can put it up so we can watch briefly. It's also one of the stories on Daily Independent, and then we can take it. Let's see if we can get that video up and put it up there so that you could react to it as well in line with the story that we have.
While we are waiting for the video, you know, there is...
Okay, let's watch.
Okay.
In Lagos State, PDP structure in Lagos State from ward, state level, and align with His Excellency Jandon to become NNPP to APC.
The incumbent publicity secretary of the party of PDP, who happens to be the spokesperson of PDP in Lagos, who is authorized by law of the party and of the country Nigeria to speak for the party in the state of Lagos, has just spoken, and he has informed us that the entire structure of that party is collapsed and they have moved en masse into APC.
I don't want to use the word abused. I think the most used word in the past 4 months is align. To align. To align.
How do you know what align yourself? You have to align with the center. Like now, if you look at this, our wide clip, you can see that Mr. Mechi is aligned. He's aligned.
Okay, so you're aligned. Yes. What's your take on this?
You know, again, I am not surprised by what Jandon did. There is this in a school of thought that believes, and I think rightly so, that all the PDP candidates in Lagos State, all of them, without exception, they have been moles of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the party. So during the primaries, he takes one of his boys and he pushed them to PDP. And that is why Chief Bode George, that is the leader of PDP in Lagos State, has always disagreed with the governorship candidates that emerged in his party. Don't forget, in the 2023 election, Bode George did not support Jandor.
Yeah.
Bode George supported the candidate of the Labour Party,
who he said was supposed to be in the PDP.
In the PDP, and the candidate.
Candidate as well.
So, Jandor, with due respect, and with what he has done, those who claim that he's only but a mole, an APC mole in the PDP, with what he has done, I'm not too sure that anybody can fault that allegation. So he's gone back to where he came from, and what's new? And what's strange about that? He's gone back to where he has always been. Don't forget, he was a member of APC, and he claimed that he quarreled with Ashwaju, that he didn't like what they were doing and all that. Came to PDP, supported by Atiku and others, because I remember the day he declared, Atiku and co, PDP bigwigs, were in Lagos. Whether they don't appreciate, like President Bola Tinubu hate him, but the truth of the matter is that he is politically smarter than most other Nigerian politicians.
That's why they call him the master strategist.
And that is why he's gotten this far. And that is why if they don't take their time, he will beat them to the game again in 2027. 7.
And then also beat them again to 2030 if care is not taken on.
It's as simple as that.
So there's really no influence here. We should not worry about whatever it is that Jandor is saying. We had Dr. Pierce on the show come and give us a history as to why Bode George did not throw his support behind Jandor. And a number of things that he said. He talked about how Jandor had sort of beaten the fingers that fed him. He tried to play politics his own way. It's a lot of stories that I can't go into now, and how he esteemed himself more highly than he actually was to the party. And the party leaders did not do their due diligence to investigate him, only to find out later that what they ordered was not what they got.
I don't know why they don't get it. Honestly, I don't know why those who call themselves non-politicians don't get it. You don't need to be a Nostradamus to know that somebody like Jandor cannot play the role he played, and nowadays he's gone back. He's gone back from where he came from, and anybody who did not see this coming perhaps does not understand what it means to be a political juggernaut in Nigeria. It's not about integrity. It's not about morality. It's about your ability to play politics by the standards that have been defined as what makes you a strong man in Nigeria.
Okay. Let's look at another paper, the Punch newspaper. The Punch says, defections. Hurricane Tinubu sweeps 12 more senators and reps. APC courts 4 PDP governors, 10 Akwa Ibom National Assembly members to join ENO, 2 Edo Nasarawa senators to quit SDP and Labour Party. Tears joy as Nigerian pilgrims depart Saudi after Hajj. Obi sparks firestorm over Tinubu's subsidy figures. And then you can see the big massive advert there. President Tinubu commissions International Conference Center, Abuja today. Remember that some days ago, Minister Wike had talked about how there's going to be a series of commissioning, and the front page of the paper had, like almost every day, there's one commissioning or the other. So we'll come back to that. I want us to be able to touch all 3 papers this morning. Let's look at the Daily Trust as well. On the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, the big story there, flood residents resist evacuation, seek help. Okay. Defections push APC members to 68 in Senate, 207 in reps. Poor emergency services dog Abuja FMC. I'm trying to, okay, yes, this is the story we started with today. I don't know if you saw that video of the young man who had the accident. We'll probably play the video. Inside politicians' pilgrimage. Oh, the Daily Trust is shady for this. See the headline. It says, inside politicians' pilgrimage to Bodilon. This is so shady. Obi, what I would have done differently, he had granted an interview on Rice Television where he spoke about what he would have done differently regarding removal of subsidy. 7 killed in Sokoto IED blast. Another Tinubu's aide resigns. Money my husband kept for Nigeria vanished, says former First Lady Miriam Abacha. Can you imagine? Who vanished the money, Mr. Amechi?
You ask him.
How did the money vanish? Okay, before we get into that, I think we should start with...
okay, we've talked about that.
Is there any story you particularly want us to speak? I mean, there are a number of stories here. I don't have the details of this one. I'll probably look it up while we're talking about the flood and residents resisting evacuation. I'm not quite sure I have the details of that, but I'll look it up while we're speaking. But let's talk for now about the poor emergency services. If our producers can please play the video that we started the show with, about a young man, a Nigerian citizen who on his way saw somebody else who had had an accident, picked him up, and a number of people who had had the accident took them to FMC in Abuja. And this was how he was treated. Let's play the video.
You, what are you doing? You don't understand what? I have already bring the patient here. Do you want me to do your work? What are you saying? Oh, it's not your work. You are on camera that you are saying it's not your work. You are on camera. You are on camera. You are saying that I'm recording you. What nonsense? I just assist some people. People are nearly dying. I just assist them. You say, can't you call them? See how this guy see his situation. See his situation. It's something that you are recording, so you are record. I just see some people on the road. I just assist them. You are saying that. Must you open the car? It's open.
Where is what's his name? Elijah.
What the man was saying, for over 15 minutes, this person has been there. They first gave excuse that they don't have hand gloves, but you could see the nonchalance and the lackadaisical attitude by which they approached this. Let's get your thoughts on the story.
It still boils down to the, we don't have value for human life in Nigeria. People dying does not make any difference to anybody. Of course, this is not new. We have seen instances where people go to the hospital, instead of attending to them, they are left to die. That's because they don't have money or nothing. Look at the video that we've just now watched. In any other country, this ought to be an emergency. And as soon as the person is brought, the emergency services will be activated. You will see wheelchairs or anything.
Everybody, all hands on deck.
And the person being evacuated, if it is to the theater, if it is something that needs surgery. But action is taken. We have seen in situations outside this country where people have respect for human life, where there is value. You see people even having accident, and they're evacuated from the scene of the accident via helicopter so as to quicken the rate at which the person is taken to the hospital. Here, there's nothing. Look at the nurse.
Very nonchalant, almost like
nonchalant. It doesn't, and if that man dies there now,
life goes on.
That's the end of the whole thing. So there's a whole lot we need to do. Will I say reorientation, or will I say this thing? This is an emergency. See somebody who is bleeding, an accident victim that a good Samaritan had brought to the hospital. You would have thought that the worst was over. At least the person had been taken to where he ought to get care. And look at what is going on. 15 minutes, no attendance. And instead, the nurse is there looking for hand glove, as if the person who brought the victim is going to provide the hand glove. A friend of mine once told me how his wife was delivered of the baby inside his car at the hospital premises, because in fact the doctors and nurses could not come out to bring her in. And those stories are there. We've had situations where people who have bullet wounds have been left to die without attending to them, because doctors are demanding police report when it has been stated clearly that you don't need a police report. What will happen? The person is already there with you. Why don't you treat and then make the calls if you suspect that he is
a criminal or something?
A criminal. But you must save life first. But here we treat, because death does not diminish us as it diminishes people in other climes. What does it matter? Over 500 people, or at least let's go by official figures.
200 bodies.
200 bodies have been recovered from the Mokwa flood.
Speaking about flood, there's even another one. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that now.
We have a situation where a retired army officer, after people had taken 10 million, was left to die, and they were called to go and meet your person, only for them to get there and they saw
dead body,
the corpse. Olive, I can assure you that's the end of that story. I can assure you that's the end of that story. The dead will bury their, the living will bury their dead, and those who perpetrated this crime will go away with their loot. So we are in a very, very bad place. We are in a very, very bad place. In areas we ought to declare emergency, such as security, we are not declaring emergency. Instead, we are declaring state of emergency in Rivers State. And people are saying that that's okay, because you are either playing ethnic card or you are playing the partisan card. Nigeria, like I said earlier, belongs to all of us. And unless we do something to salvage it, to dig ourselves out of this big, terrible hole we are in, all of us are going to suffer the consequences. It is as simple as that. Look, a country where life that you cannot replace does not matter, doesn't make any difference to anybody. People move on. You wake up in the morning, 70 people are slaughtered.
100 people.
So,
and people just move on.
I think people have become desensitized. Death has become normalized. And again, we always would ask on this show, what is the value of the Nigerian life? That's a question that we're going to wrap up today's show with.
It has no value.
What is the value of the Nigerian life?
Zero value. I tell people, don't allow yourself to be killed. In fact, the only duty you owe yourself as a Nigerian is to stay safe. Don't allow yourself to be killed, because if you die, you've died for nothing. You have died practically for nothing, because nobody is going to ask after you. Nobody is going to say, what happened to this citizen? What happened to this man? Who killed this man? These people that were slaughtered in their sleep, who are responsible? Look, the tragedy in Plateau State, no, okay. about 2 months ago.
Yes.
Who is being tried?
Nobody.
Who?
We're talking about Plateau State. Just the 5th of June here. Was it 5th of June? Yes, we celebrated the anniversary of the killings in Owo. My friend lost both parents in the church when they were shot.
Yeah.
What has happened to them?
So who is being tried for those people? Instead, you will see government officials going to plead for calm. Accommodate your neighbors.
You know what? We have to leave the show now. We have to wrap up. It's just really a sad note to wrap up the show. But whether or not we refer to it as sad, it's the reality of Nigerians. And our responsibility here is to amplify the voices of Nigerians and, you know, make bold the cries of Nigerians. So we'll be back again tomorrow to continue with fresh stories. But Jasiri comes up right after now. Thank you for joining us. I am Olive Emodi.